So today we're going to go through a relatively simple part made in millimeters. And the purpose of that is to show a few more features of Fusion 360 and then also show a really basic way to use the Revolve tool. And then later on we're going to show some more advanced ways of using the Revolve tool. So the part we're going to make today is in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. It is, like I said, a relatively simple part in millimeters, two views, a front and a top view. And we're going to go through and make this. So we already have a new file open in Fusion here. And the way that we want to start out doing this to kind of force us to use the Revolve tool is to make this bottom cylinder section of the part. The overall height of that bottom section is 30 millimeters and the overall diameter is 40 millimeters. So what we're going to do is create a new sketch on this back plane. Drag that over. I'm going to make a rectangle. I can grab the 2-point rectangle up here as a reminder, the S key on your keyboard to give you your shortcuts menu, which the 2-point rectangle is there, or you can search for it, or it's R on the keyboard. And I'm going to make this rectangle 30 millimeters tall, which is the height, and then I'm going to make it 20 millimeters wide, which is half of the diameter. So I'm going to zoom out here. And one thing you're going to notice is that I'm in inches, which is not where I want to be. So in order to change this per document, now in general you want to leave all of your dimensions in inches. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape, drag and select that, and hit the delete key on my keyboard. In general you want to stay in inches, but every once in a while we need to do a millimeter part. So to change that, if you go to the top left hand corner under your browser, click the arrow next to document settings, it'll show your units. If you click on the change active units button, you can go over here to the right, change it from inches to millimeters, and hit OK. Now you can see your grid has changed. Now if I go and use the 2-point rectangle tool, I'm going to make this 30 millimeters tall and tab over and 20 millimeters wide, and hit enter. Now I can zoom back in here. I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And I'm going to use this rectangle to make my bottom part of my cylinder. So I'm going to grab the Revolve command, which is up here at the top left-hand corner. You can also use the S keyboard shortcut. It's the only profile here that's available, so it automatically selects the profile. You can see it says one selected. If you had multiples, you would just go in and click on the profile you wanted. And then we need to choose the axis that it's going to rotate around. So the axis I want rotate around is this left-hand side of the rectangle, which is where my origin is. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to go to an ISO view here with my view cube, and what you can see is it's taken that and revolved it or rotated it around that center axis to create that solid body. This is a relatively simple example of that, but we'll get into some more complex ones later. Now if you wanted to, we could definitely change the amount of rotation. So let's say I just wanted to do a half cylinder, I could do 180, or a 3/4 cylinder, I could do 270 degrees, but in this case we want a completely solid cylinder, so we'll leave that at 360. And you want to make sure that this says new body over here, and then we'll hit OK. So now we have our base cylinder. Pull up my drawing again here. I just need to make this section on top. So I'm going to use the Fillet command, which is another tool we haven't talked about yet, to create these roundovers at the bottom of this, but the overall height of that protrusion is 15 millimeters, and then it's 10 by 10 square from the top view. So I'm going to create a sketch on my top view. Now instead of grabbing the 2-point rectangle tool, I'm going to hit create here and get my menu open. I'm going to go to rectangle, and I want to use a center rectangle instead. And the reason I want to do that is I want this square to be right on the center of this cylinder that I've created. So I'm going to click on that origin, or the center point, and drag out, and you can see that I can create a rectangle from a center point, and I want that to be 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters, and hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and finish that sketch. Click E on my keyboard for extrude, select that profile, and if I go back to my drawing, the overall height is 15 millimeters, so I'll type 15 millimeters in and hit OK. Now I need to go in and add those fillets, those rounded corners there, which has a radius of 5 millimeters. So I'm going to go under my Modify panel, go to Fillet. It's also F on the keyboard. If you notice, all these commands have if they have a letter next to it, that's the keyboard shortcut. So I'll hit Fillet. and I'm going to select all those edges. Now the one nice thing about Fusion is I can select these edges, but even though I can't see them, I can also select those back edges so I don't have to rotate the model around, which is really nice. I'll type 5 in for my radius, and then I'll come over here and hit OK. And that adds our radius to the part. And then the last thing we need to do is to add this 30-degree 5mm chamfer to the bottom of the part. So I'm going to go to this view down here. I'm going to go to Modify. I'm going to go to Chamfer. It doesn't have a keyboard shortcut, but you could use the S menu. And there are 3 different types. There's equal distance, there's 2 distances, and there's distance and an angle. And our dimension that we're given, if we take a look again, is we have an angle and we have a distance. So we're going to choose distance and an angle. I'm going to select this bottom edge. I'm going to put in my distance as 5mm and my angle as 30 degrees. And hit OK. Now if I go to my front view, I can see I have that chamfer on that corner, which completely matches the bottom of the chamfer on the drawing that we have here. So now that I have the part done, I want to make sure and go and save it. So I'm going to go to my data panel, go to PLTW, IED. I want to make a new folder called 1.2.5. Hit enter. Double click on 1.2.5. And then I'm going to hit the save button and save this as 1.2.5-part. And hit save. Now that we've created our part, we want to make a drawing of that part. And essentially what we're going to be doing is replicating the drawing that you've been given. So we've already saved our part in our IED 1.2.5 folder. So we want to go to Design, Drawing, and From Design. We want full assembly, create new from scratch. This time we're going to be in ISO because we're in millimeter units. And then we don't want to choose A3. We want to go to A4 210 by 297 millimeters. And hit OK. Once the drawing loads, it's going to give us a base view of our part, which is going to be the front view. So we'll place that in the bottom left-hand corner. And hit OK. We're going to stay in 1:1 scale because it fits well on this drawing for this part size, so we'll hit OK. I'm going to click on the actual drawing that I just placed. I can go up to projected view up here, but I can also right click on my part and hit projected view there as well. So I'll go ahead and do that. And when I do that, what you're going to notice is this is not the top view that we want. It's actually the bottom view. So you can go back and try to fix the part and everything like that, but if you're just trying to get a quick drawing done real quick, we have a workaround for that. So I'm going to drag down here and place the bottom view, and it's going to be on the title block, and that's fine, but that actually shows what top view I want. So I'm going to left click and place that. Then I'm going to right click and hit OK. Now if I click on that drawing, or left click on that view, and there should be a little square in the middle. If I click and hold on that, left click and hold on that, I'm going to drag that up just above my part, and then that brings my actual top view that I want up to the top view section of the drawing. And then because that bottom view is messed up, I know my ISO is going to be messed up, so I'll left click on that and right click and project view. And as you can see, if I try to drop my ISO, it's giving me a view of the bottom instead of the top. So I'm going to right click and hit cancel. And then another workaround for that is I can just go to base view again. And it's going to try to place a front view. But if I go over to my panel here and under orientation, I'm going to go down to southwest. And that gives me the one that I don't want. So if I go to northeast, then that gives me the actual ISO view I want, and I can just place this. This does not have to be aligned with either your front or your top view, so I can just go ahead and place that, and that puts that view where I want it, and then I can hit OK. Now I want it shaded, so I'll double click on it again, go to shaded, and hit close, and then that gives me the views that I want. So from here you need to go through and replicate the dimensions that are on this drawing that you were given. So all the dimensions on the front view, all the dimensions on the top view, for diameter, for angle, and radius, and all those different types of things. But one thing we haven't talked about is how to place notes like this one has. So to do that, it's very simple. If you go up to the text field in the top of your menu, hit text or T on your keyboard, I'm going to click and drag a box. And I'm just going to type in the note that I want to add. So it's notes. the colon, enter. Number 1 is all dimensions in millimeters, and then hit enter. That gives you returns to the next line. So if you want to add more text, you could, and then you can hit close over here. Now you can format your text however you want. If you want the height bigger, a different font, if you want it centered or bold or underlined, any of that stuff can be done here. You can also insert symbols as well using this symbol drop down. But I'll go ahead and hit close. That adds that note there, which matches the note here on the drawing that I was given. So once you've done that, go ahead and place all your dimensions. You can move this around if you need to. So if you want to move it out of the way because it's interfering with the dimension, you can kind of move that over to the side. Add all of your dimensions. Once all your dimensions are added, you're going to go up to Output and Output PDF. I would save that to the desktop on your computer, and then that is going to be your submission to Canvas for this assignment.